Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert workshop. My name is Stefan, and I am a part of the My World of Work Live team here at Skills Development Scotland. My World of Work Live is about helping you to understand future careers and what type of skills these careers may need. So in today's session, we're going to cover a quick overview of the finance sector. We're going to have a look at some of the opportunities within the sector. I'm then going to introduce you to Jenny Barber, who is the Director of Careers and Talent at Investment Management 2020. And then we'll also introduce you to our other expert for today, Megan Rennie from M&G Finance. I would encourage you to get involved as much as possible. Just remember, this is for your benefit. So please use the time to ask as many questions as you would like in the question and answer section at the bottom of your screen. We will do our very best to get through as many questions as we possibly can today. I would just like to let you know that today's session is being recorded. The reason it is being recorded is because it is in the public interest for us to do so. Now, what this means is that any young person who has been unable to attend today can go back and watch the video again through the My World of Work YouTube channel. And it means for anybody that has joined today, if you've maybe missed something, would like to go back over it again, you could also do the same. Also, please don't worry. If you are asking questions today, they can be anonymous. So like I said, just get involved as much as you can and we'll get through as many questions as we can. So just before I introduce you to today's experts, let's have a look at some of the information for the finance sector. So we've got the labour market information. Now, the UK remains one of the largest investment centres in the world. It is second only to the likes of the United States, and it is also the largest centre in Europe, so quite a big sector. 75% of the UK households use services of an investment manager. If, like me, and you were unaware of that, hopefully this is something that both Jenny and Megan today will be able to shed some light on for us. Investment management is about helping people to remain financially secure and have that stability in regards to your finances. Also, 113,000 jobs across the investment manager sector currently. And the finance sector is responsible and it's also sustainable investment that has emerged as the standout theme within 2020 across customer markets. So hopefully this gives you a bit of an insight into the local labour market information for the finance sector. So I'm now going to introduce you to our expert for today, Jenny Barber. And then once Jenny's finished, we'll come on to Megan then as well. Jenny is the Director of the Careers and Talent. And Jenny has worked as a careers advisor before making the move into Investment 2020. Megan is also the Junior EPMO Analyst for M&G Investments. Megan joined M&G in 2019 as an apprentice, and during her 12-month apprenticeship, gained her diploma in Business and Admin, alongside a professional qualification in Project Management. Now, I'm going to pass you over to Jenny, who can give you a bit more of an insight into her sector as well.
Great, thank you, Stefan. So investment management, most people don't know what investment management does because we're not high street like so many other sectors. But essentially, investment management supports people to have long-term financial security and stability. So for many people, what that means is that when we stop working, when we retire and we don't have our salary through our monthly income from our jobs, we actually do have an income from a pension, and a pension is a long-term savings plan. Now, what investment managers do is they pull together people's money, pull together the savings that they might want to invest, and they invest it into companies and projects globally with the aim that those companies and projects do well and clients get a return on their initial investment. So their money grows, essentially. They've got more money at the end of the day. Now, it isn't just about getting that financial return for clients as well and getting that return on their initial investment. It's also about how investment management can do good and make the world a better place as well. So when investment managers look at how they invest, they look at factors that we call environmental, social and governance. So what that means is they're looking at, do the companies and projects that they're investing in help us move along the environmental issues? So, for example, they might look at how they invest in logistics firms, and they might choose to invest in firms that are moving towards electric charged vehicles instead of diesel and petrol, because that helps us move on the carbon emissions agenda. They might look at issues around how a company is run. So are the companies they're investing in, have they made commitments to close the gender pay gap? So that's the pay gap between perhaps what men and women are paid. Have they moved and made a commitment to increasing the number of women on their boards, for example? So when investment managers invest, they are not just looking at how well are the companies and projects that they're investing in going to do. That's a lot of research that goes into that to make sure they're good investment choices for the end consumers. That's people like me and you. But they're also looking at, do those investment decisions help make the world a better place as well? Now, Investment 2020, where I'm from, we're an organisation that supports students to explore and research careers in investment management. We also help young people navigate their way into their first job in the sector as well. So we have a unique trainee programme, and we have our firms that run apprenticeship programmes as well. These are all first level jobs, so your first foot in the door, your first step on the ladder in a career in investment management. The jobs are paid between £17,000 and £23,000 a year in Scotland, and they're jobs right across organisations, so HR and training, or more on the investment side, or more in the marketing side, any job that you can think of that might happen in a big organisation. The employers offer qualifications and training so you can do your job well, and you also receive training from Investment 2020 and insight and networking opportunities to help develop your whole industry knowledge and not just your skills to do your job. Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you, Jenny. Really, really interesting there, hearing about how the finance sector has a part to play as well in terms of the economy and the green energy and things like that as well. So really, really interesting. I'm now going to pass over to Megan, who's also going to give an insight into her role and her sector.
Thanks, Stephen. So hi everyone. So during my apprenticeship role as a project support officer, each day was different. Although I had my standard monthly tasks to fulfil, requirements changed quite frequently, which made my role quite interesting. I had 7 dedicated hours of apprenticeship assignment time, which I weaved throughout the week, which was plenty of time to actually get the work done. The transition from school to professional working felt pretty seamless, and I think this was mainly through the way that I was trained. I'd be given small tasks and responsibilities to do, and once I was comfortable with the process, I'd then move on to the next stage. As I gained a role within the team I started in, I've just been building on all the skills I developed as an apprentice. I now have lots of responsibility for managing documents and processes, which gives me great job satisfaction. I love the variety and exposure my role gives me and gives of the company, especially as I'm just starting my career. I can actually start making informed decisions of where I might want to go in the next few years. Before I started the apprenticeship, I studied a range of subjects in S5 and 6 because I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing my crash hire business in S6 when I realised that I found this topic super interesting, and I applied to uni for this as a degree. For someone like me who had decent enough grades, university really is the only path that schools pursue, so I never thought apprenticeships would actually be an option for me. Not sure with my decision to go to uni, I then started looking at what else I could do. By this point, it was April. There wasn't very many options left for me. I had found M&G's apprenticeships, read into what they offered and a bit about the company, and instantly knew this was the better option for me. The applications had just closed and I was disappointed that I may have missed out, but a few days later I noticed they had opened a window for time for more applicants and I was straight on to apply. I had deferred my year at university just in case it didn't work out, but once I started I knew this was for me and I cancelled my deferral and I've been with M&G ever since. So for me, communication skills are really quite key. Having the confidence to speak to someone new or even just to ask for help as an apprentice is really quite key. I also have to have good organisational skills. because there's quite a few deadlines, whether that's your apprenticeship assignments or just general work. So it's really quite key to prioritise your days. Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you, Megan. So really interesting there once again to find out. I think for me, it's really interesting to know that you had a backup plan there, really having your university deferral sitting there, but also making your real plan as well. So Megan, I'm going to stick with you for the first couple of questions coming in from our audience. The first question that we've been asked today is, what type of tasks do you get to do on a day-to-day basis within your role?
Yeah, so really it depends on the day. So each month, usually I have a standard monthly task. So say the first working day of the month is doing some contact list updates for all the people that we reach out to. So depends what it is, but usually it's working with Microsoft Office. So developing my skills in that area. So for maybe analysing or reaching out to people or consolidating data and stuff. So really it's more the Microsoft Office skills that I'm developing each day, and I use day in, day out. So yeah.
Excellent. So thank you, Megan. Really interesting there. And that brings us on nicely to the next question, really. You have touched on this already in terms of communication skills. So what I'm going to ask you is, were you aware these were the type of skills that you needed before going into M&G, or did you just pick them up as you went along?
So really, I already had a good enough foundation of those types of skills, because I actually didn't realise that they were the skills that the company was really looking for, and a lot of companies look for. So really, it wasn't until I got into the company that I realised that these are the skills that really stand you apart from everyone else. I was already confident enough to speak to people, but honestly, I didn't realise how much I would grow and actually get better at it, to be honest.
Great. And I think what I love as well about the skills that you've mentioned is that they are transferable skills. So it means that you can take them into different sectors or even within different roles in the organisation if you ever fancy to change as well. So thank you for that. So I'm going to come on now to Jenny. Jenny, we've been asked here, what advice would you give to someone looking for a career like yours?
Well, if young people are listening and they want to come into investment management and broader financial services as well, I think the key thing is to start to be able to show that you're keen on that career area. Now, that doesn't mean having to go out and get really relevant work experience. It's about perhaps looking at some articles, doing some reading, perhaps following some investment firms on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, identifying 2 or 3 investment management firms that you might be interested in, and perhaps going onto their website and seeing what they're about, just to start to do some of that initial research and understanding that labour market, because all of that will really help inform your decisions as well. I think it's also important to see what's going on around the world, because investment management, what we do is it's a global economy, it's a global industry, and everything that's going on around the world has an impact, and we help drive in some way. The other things to do is obviously to go and speak to your teachers at school, your careers advisors as well, and get their advice. But begin to think about how some of the skills that you're gaining from school or college subjects, but also perhaps for any part-time jobs that you might have, or some volunteering, or perhaps looking after siblings. Start thinking about those skills that you're developing across those different activities and environments, and thinking about how do those skills really now help strengthen my application as well. And Megan talked about some of those skills like communication skills and teamwork, etc.
So Jenny, I think these link in quite nicely again when you're saying there about like young people going and approaching careers advisors and teachers. What are the benefits of somebody doing an apprenticeship over going to the likes of college or university?
Well, I think first of all, it's important to remember that everyone has their own decisions, and they're really difficult decisions. I think we all remember being that age and having to make those next steps, and Megan's sort of just spoken about that, in the last year or so for herself. So what might be a benefit for one person may not work out for the next person. So it is individual. Now, going to do an apprenticeship or going straight out to work on a trainee position through our programs will give you that ability to learn that job as you're doing the job and being paid at the same time as well, and also working towards industry qualifications. Now, those qualifications may not be the same qualifications you'll do if you ended up going to perhaps university, for example, but they are industry specific. It's what we call professional qualifications. And quite often, even if you came in with a degree or with other qualifications from college or university, you'd still need to do some industry qualifications as well at some point. And it's, you know, it's important to keep learning. So it's about learning whilst you're earning. Essentially, you're doing the job and earning at the same time, and you're starting to carve out your career pathway. Now, you can come into investment management with hires or equivalent, vocational equivalent, or you might come in with a degree or a postgraduate degree. There are different entry points that people can join. So it's about making sure it's the right decision for you.
Thank you. And Megan, I'm going to come back to you again, and I'm going to ask you the exact same question, really. What would you say from like a young person's perspective, what the benefits of doing an apprenticeship are to the likes of going to college and university?
So really, because I didn't know what I wanted to do in business, it's really given me the opportunity to understand through the work-related side what actually I want to go into doing. So maybe you want to go to university eventually, but even just trying an apprenticeship out and seeing what types of things you're interested in. And there's obviously movement within companies and things like that. So there is the opportunity, whether you see a job or a role within the company, you can then start switching. So to be honest, it's very open to anything, and it's the whole way of moving from different areas and stuff is really quite beneficial to actually get a breadth of knowledge and things, and especially when someone like me, you don't really know what you want to do.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it gives you a lot more flexibility to try and figure out what you would like to do going forward. So that's really good information there. Thank you, Megan. So Megan, next question really, what would you say are the most challenging parts of your job?
So really right now, the most challenging parts are tying between my two split roles. So right now I have a role where it's split between a project, so I'm working on a project half of my time, and then working within my usual reporting team, so doing some more analysis type stuff. So really, to be honest, it's being able to prioritise and manage expectations within my company and my team and things, and say, sorry, I'm quite busy with this stuff, I'll manage my time and I'll do that maybe next week and pick that up for you. So really it's just managing expectations and managing time and things like that, when two areas don't really necessarily speak as often.
And I think that really sort of reiterates where your skills come in there in terms of communication as well. So thank you for that. Megan, I'm going to stick with you for this next question as well. Now, what subjects would you recommend I do at school?
So really just your kind of basic subjects. So as long as you have your kind of basic maths and English really at your national level, that's what I needed anyway. And then apart from that, really for me, it was business studies that made me interested in that area. So not that you need certain subjects, because I did a lot of different subjects, as I said, but really going into the subjects that maybe more interest you. So say if it's business management, I didn't realise how interested I would be in it. So really it's more finding out what you like. So that's why I did try a lot of subjects. So
Jenny, the next thing really from what Megan had said there, I think this really is quite important. Now, Megan had mentioned there about maths being something that is required in the finance sector. Could you shed a bit more light on maths and the finance sector?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a bit of a myth that to work in financial services, broadly, you need to be like a maths whiz. That's not entirely correct. So there are some jobs where, yes, of course, you're going to need to be really highly numerate, and that goes for every sector. So there are going to be some jobs in the labour market generally where you need to be really, really good at maths, but certainly in financial services, that's not every job by any means. What we will want, as again, every sector, are people who kind of understand numbers, but we're talking at school level, you know, what you might come out with at school level, everyone's day-to-day ability to be able to look at numbers and understand numbers in a situation. But that would be appropriate to the job level that you're going in at. So you don't need to have, you know, really, really high grades in maths. You don't need to have studied economics or maths at university or maths at higher. It's about having a little bit of confidence with numbers, but every job across the economy needs people to have that ability. So no, you don't need to be a mathematical wizard for every job in our sector.
Thank you. I think that really sheds some light on that as well. So, Jenny, next question for you. What degrees would be most suitable if someone decided to take this path?
What degree was that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a bit like what Megan's just spoken about, you've got to do something you're interested in, because generally you'll do better and you'll have a more enjoyable experience studying if you're studying something that you're interested in. So we obviously have lots of people who might study things like business, like Megan did, you know, or economics or something along those lines. But equally, we're really keen to have a range of people from a range of subject backgrounds come into investment management, because the broader that people coming from a subject base, so geography, history, you know, all sorts of subjects, means that we approach problems in a more diverse way. It means people think differently, they look at problems and situations differently, and it means that as a sector, and therefore our investors, benefit from lots of different approaches to problem solving and thinking about investments and thinking about work. So there isn't, you have to have a specific subject at school, hires, college, university. It is about doing something you're really interested in. Now, there are certain jobs, don't get me wrong, where you might need a specific subject. You might need to show that you've done a numerate-based degree or an IT-based degree if you want to be a software engineer, for example, in the sector, you know. But 70% of the jobs, really, it's about having someone who shows they can learn and eager to learn, and they can bring those subjects into their jobs.
Thank you, Jenny. And I think there, like you've touched on this quite a bit. Now, just before I move back to Megan, I'm going to ask both of you the same question there. So, Jenny, do you like working in the finance sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've got a job that I absolutely love. And, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. And I've worked in lots of different industries. I've worked in schools and colleges, universities, charities. I've worked in loads of different places. And all of that has really helped me understand what I like to do and what I enjoy as well. No, I love working in investment management. And what I love the most, actually, apart from being able to support young people into jobs, you know, which is a big part of what I do, is actually I'm working in a sector which does have this big impact upon broader society. And for me, because I've always worked with people and in charities and so on, I like working for a sector that I know has an impact upon wider society and bigger issues that are important to me as well. So I'll give you an example. One of the investment managers that work with us at Investment 2020, they have a social housing fund, which is there specifically to invest in social housing so that vulnerable adults are less at risk of homelessness. And that's quite a big passion of mine, actually, homelessness and society issues. And it's great to work in a sector that I know the end impact of what they're doing has a good outcome for people.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well with regards to homelessness, I think it's one of those things that's still quite prominent. So again, really, really good to touch on that. So Megan, coming back to you, I've got the same question really for you. Do you like working in finance?
Yeah, I actually really do, and it's not something that I thought I would be initially when I was thinking about it, because it is quite a daunting thing, and I never actually thought from a person looking in that it was actually ever something that I could really do well in or really achieve. But I think what's helped is all these transferable skills and things that I've developed. It's more about the person you are, how driven and stuff like that you are. So really, to be honest, from a person now looking out, it's really not as daunting as you first anticipate, and it's definitely a lot more interesting. And you might not understand stuff straight away, but you'll learn it. So honestly, it's a lot better than you first anticipate.
Brilliant. And I think you said it there yourself. It's about pushing boundaries for yourself and learning and developing as you go along. So, Megan, this is really relevant to the current situation that we're in, but how would you say COVID has impacted the finance sector or even your job role in general?
So really, our company has been really quite good with us. We've had our equipment and our desks, our chairs, our monitors and things like that. That's all been provided for us. So in terms of working from home, it's been really quite comfortable. And when I was an apprentice last year, that's when COVID obviously started. So we were treated like all the other colleagues. So really, it didn't have much of an effect. We also really managed what COVID would do to your mental health and things like that. So we had more daily chats and quizzes, different things, so that we're all interacting a lot more. So to be honest, COVID, although socially it wasn't as great for us, it hasn't actually stopped the boundaries of us committing to our goals and achievements within the company.
That's great, Megan. I think it's really, really reassuring to hear that whilst this is a really difficult time for everybody, that there is positives to be taken away from the pandemic and stuff as well. So maybe a bit more interaction with people that maybe went amiss before and things like that. So thank you for that. Megan, next question, but it's still for you. Who would you say influenced you the most to start a career in this field?
To be honest, I think it's just the successful people I've been surrounded by. So really, I knew that people had done well in M&G. So I knew that the option of going into M&G was quite familiar to me, and that I knew that people had done well. So to be honest, it was the influence of the people around me that had been quite successful that led me into looking and delving into that deeper, really, to be honest. So that's what originally influenced me.
And do you think, like, the people that influenced you, do you think you would have went down a different career path, maybe into something else that you would have liked, or do you think that you went into the right path?
I think I wouldn't have known about it. I wouldn't have known about M&G, so I would have probably just gone to university. I wouldn't have been confident in my decision and going along the M&G apprenticeship path. So I'm really happy that I did have that slight influence in my head, that I knew that this is a reputable company and that there are opportunities to do really quite well.
Yeah, and that really highlights the positivity of networking, finding out from like teachers, parents, friends, and then making your own informed decisions. So that's really good. Jenny, coming back to you, question here. Now, you don't have to give the specifics, but what type of salary can you earn within the finance sector?
Look, money's important to us all, isn't it? So it's a good question. We go out to work and we want to be paid well for doing our job. So it's a good question, and one that should be asked, actually. What we can do is that every job obviously commands a different salary, and depending on the job that you do and the firm that you're in, that will look a bit different as well. So it's hard to give an exact, but what I can talk about is the starting salary. And it's really important to remember, if you're in school or college and listening to this at the moment, that actually your starting salary is not your end salary. It is just a starting point. So for a good example, our trainee and apprenticeship programmes, they range between £17,000 and £23,000 as a start point. And then once you roll off that trainee or apprenticeship programme and you become what we will say, a sort of permanent normal member of staff, you're off that trainee year where you're learning lots and, developing lots. You then move into what we call market rate salary. And that is what you would expect that next position to be paid at within that organisation. And then as your career develops, you might do some studying and some learning, you might take a promotion, you might move sideways into a different department, and your career will develop and progress, and your salary will progress as well. And that is about how driven you are and how you want your career to move forward. Your start point is your start point. Your salary will progress as your career does.
So Jenny, if I was interested in Investment 2020 and looking to know more about the opportunities now, how could I apply for a position?
So a few ways. I would recommend, first of all, that you go on the Investment 2020 website. So it's down actually on your screen at the moment. It's at the bottom there. So it's investment2020.org.uk. And that is a great place for you to start to look at what the types of vacancies are. So, you know, if you're due to leave school sort of within the next year, if you go on there now, you'll be able to see some of the vacancies available for young people who are going to be starting sort of June, July time, essentially. And it'll give you a really good example. Once you go on there, you'll be able to then go to the firm website and look at those job descriptions in a bit more detail, and you'll be able to make those applications, etc. So the best place to start, to be honest, is our website as a good place to do your research, find out about different career pathways. You can watch some films of some of our trainees and apprentices talking about their jobs as well, and you can look at all the different types of firms that are in our sector too as part of your research, and then moving on to the jobs and making those applications.
Brilliant. I've just got one final question for both of you there. So Jenny, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your 14-year-old self?
All sorts. But with regards to careers, I think I would say don't panic, because me personally, I think I'm the sort of person that likes to think I'm making the right decision immediately. But actually, what I have learned through my career is that careers change, jobs appear, but you weren't even there when you started work, and suddenly there's a new pathway to take and a different qualification to take. So I would say, first of all, don't panic, talk to lots of people, make decisions on what the information you've got at that point that feel good to you, and then take the opportunities as they arise. Say yes to lots of things, because the more you say yes to, the more experience you get, the more skills you develop, and also a better platform you're building yourself in work as well, because you get to meet more people.
Megan, same question for you. What advice would you give your 14-year-old self?
I think it would really just be have a look, explore at all the opportunities that there are, to be honest, because I did leave it a bit too late. I didn't really think about these things early. So really it is just have a look. There's no harm in looking, seeing, getting on any lists that you can get any notifications when things come up. Even if you want to just have an interview experience of seeing if this is what you want to do, it's really valuable to actually look and see what options are out there early, so that you can really navigate and find the ways that really interest you and will work for you. It worked for me, even though I didn't necessarily do as much preparation over the few years before I actually went into the apprenticeship.
Thank you. And Jenny, I'm just going to come back to you, sorry, for one final question. What areas are the best for jobs in finance? So like what type of cities would that be? London or?
Yeah, so for investment management is part of bigger financial services. So bigger financial services includes, you know, banking and insurance, etc. as well. So some parts of financial services are all across the UK. So retail banking is a great example there. Okay, investment management, we tend to be in what we call like hubs across the UK. So Edinburgh, Glasgow, Stirling are hubs within the Scotland region, and then we have a lot in London as well, and there's a few dotted around the rest of the UK, smaller places, but certainly Scotland is a big area for asset management, and Edinburgh, Glasgow and Stirling particularly so.
Thank you, Jenny. Megan, massive thank you for joining us today, really, and being able to provide such a valuable insight. For anybody looking to know more about what has been discussed today, or find out and maybe do a bit what Megan had said and research, look into careers a bit more, you can find out more about careers at www.myworldofwork.co.uk. You will find loads of information there that may help you with making choices. It may be with CVs, or even just looking for some motivation and inspiration as to what you could potentially go on and do. If you do want to learn more about apprenticeships, you have the Investment 2020 website, which Jenny has mentioned, or you could also go to apprenticeships.scot, which gives you a variety of apprenticeships across Scotland, and you can get a bit more insight about those there. We also have digitalworld.net. Now, all these links will be provided in the question and answer section there as well. Digitalworld.net, so you can go on there and find out a bit more about digital jobs there, and it could even be in the finance industry where you're having more of a digital role. I would also really stress the importance of speaking to your school careers advisor. They will have so much information that they can try and help guide you to make your own informed decision about what you would like to do when you're in school, when you leave school, and beyond. That's us come to the end of the session for today. I just want to once again take a huge thank you to Jenny and Megan for taking the time to join us. I would also really like to say a huge thank you for everybody joining us today. We hope that you found this insightful and you've been able to take something away from it. I know I found it useful, and we really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you and take care.